This is Wyduck here with another game from the RSL finals. This is game 5. We have in the top left, spawning as the blue Terran, Startale's Bomber. And in the bottom right, we have Startale's Life spawning as the red Zerg. So if you missed the earlier games, Life is currently leading 3-1. Bomber won the first game after Life tried to 10 pool and it didn't succeed and was behind the game the entire time, and then Bomber was able to attain victory. And the last 3 games have been a little bit more standard. There was a cheese involved. Bomber lost the next 3 games. So Bomber has to win the next 3 if he wants to take home the championship. Life only needs to get 1 more victory before he is crowned 2013 RSL champion. So Bomber is opening up with a supply depot. Life is droning up. No shenanigans here. It is Belshire Vestige, so it is a little bit more difficult. This map is a little bit larger than most maps. Bomber is zoning up with a barracks. And this is a little bit curious because Bomber in the other macro games, and even in the first game where Life tried to all-in him with the 10 pool, Bomber actually opened up with a CC first. In the first game, he opened up with a CC on the high ground. The second game, he had CC on the low ground. And in the fourth game, he had CC again on the high ground, I believe. And then he went for a quick third last game. So this is the first game where he's not really going for the quick CC. He elects for the barracks first. So playing a more standard, safe opening. But he is going to put the CC on the low ground after his barracks. Life, on the other hand, is getting his second hatchery. And also morphing into spawning pool. If you notice, Life also has the first extractor up and is mining gas. So I believe he's going to be going for Zergling speed. And this is a little bit curious as well, as Life in all the other previous games did not go for Zergling speed nearly as quickly as he is this game. So I believe Life wants to get map control in this game, and that will give him a significant advantage. And let's take a look. It's at 92 gas. Once it ticks to 100, now there's no workers on the extractor. Gets Zergling speed. Bomber's Marines are looking around for any stray overlords, and he's building 2 more barracks in the back. Bomber still does not have a refinery constructed, but his second command center is almost up and running. I like the placement of the overlords here from Life. He's basically put them in both areas where it would be most likely for Bomber to try and have some early aggression with Hellions. Maybe come in with some medevacs. So those overlords are going to be able to spot any incoming aggression from Bomber. And he's also going to send 4 Zerglings on their way into Bomber's base. Zergling speed is almost complete, about another half minute or so. Bomber's building that bunker. The bunker SCV is under attack. Not sure how successful this attack will be. Life's going to lose 1 Zergling. And Bomber thwarts the first aggression from Life. He's going to fill that bunker with Marines. And that bunker is going to be able to protect that SCV line. And this is nice. Bomber is going to build some supply depots blocking the bunkers, so any physical melee aggression is going to be thwarted. Life is still scouting around with his 3 Zerglings, trying to get inside or be able to harass those SCVs. That supply depot at the main goes up, and now the Zerglings are stuck. But a whole bunch of Zerglings are coming in trying to directly attack the bunker, but those SCVs are there blocking and repairing, and this attack is not going to do very much. A few more Zerglings are picked off. He comes in for another run, but the Zerglings are not able to do too much. So in that attack, it looks like Life was able to take down 1 SCV. Doesn't seem to be really worth it, as he lost about 200 more resources. And now Bomber's deciding to run his little pack of Marines down to the center of the map. Gonna take over this Zelnaga tower, get some scouting information, picks off a Zergling. But now Life knows what's coming. He knows there's about 8 Marines going to his base. So he's gonna pull back the Zerglings. And actually, Bomber's able to pick off Overlord, so that is a good trade for Bomber. Life's third is going up. And he's beginning his creep spread. And in the last couple of games, Life's creep spread has been pretty good. And now he has the Baneling nest completed. So I think Life is going to go for some Baneling busting. And there we go. Banelings in production. He's got 9 Banelings under construction right now. They're all morphing in right now, and he can do a lot of damage as Bomber has no idea. But this wall with the 3rd command center blocking, it's going to be very difficult for the Banelings to make connections on the bunkers and to do enough damage. So let's take a look at resources lost. The bunker's taken down, the command center takes a lot of damage, but look at the resources lost. That was not an effective attack for Life, and even though Life still has a lot of supply advantage over Bomber, if you take a look, it doesn't look like Bomber was damaged at all. There's about 1,000 resources lost lead for Bomber, and he's going to put up the 2nd bunker where it fell initially, and he's got his 3rd morphing into a orbital command. Life's going to go again. He's got 5 Banelings dancing into the natural. Let's see how much damage he can do. He's able to pick off a few SCVs. The Banelings are picked off. They don't do much damage. And now Life is going to decide to retreat. So this engagement, if you take a look at this, about 900 resources different lost. The engagement was not in Life's favor, but Life does have his 3rd. He's getting his double Evo chamber up. And his creep spread is significant. It's going to be soon up to the middle of the map. But Bomber does have his 3rd up. It's not landed, but it is providing mules and scans and extra SCVs. So this is still up. This game is still up for grabs for anyone. No one is at a clear advantage. I think Bomber's at a slight advantage, maybe. And with Bomber building tanks, especially on this ridge, any more Baneling attacks or with roaches is not going to do very well, as tanks are very effective against those units. We've got a medevac on the left side of the map, and Bomber's going to try and drop his 3rd here, which is curious. Usually you try to drop your 3rd here, but he's electing to go for the sneaky play to drop the 3rd over here. The medevac was spotted by the Overlord and a 2nd Overlord, so I don't think this is going to do too much damage, but let's take a look. As the Marines drop down, they pick off a couple drones. They're able to pick off 3 drones. They're still not stimming. They were able to pick off 4 drones, and now there's a whole bunch of Zerglings. They're going to have to get out of there. 1 Marine is sacrificed. Poor guy. Look at his body. And Bomber's going to have to recollect himself. And Life can still see this, as this Overlord is over beyond the cliff, so it's still there. He's trying to pick off that Overlord that's scouting, but that's not going to work if the Zerglings come in there to deal with those Marines. This medevac is basically stuck and cannot do anything. Trying to drop off some Marines here, picks off a Zergling, but loses a Marine. Not a very good trade for Bomber. Bomber's going to pick up and with his last 6 Marines, and going to drop again into Life's 3rd. Life can see everything, and Life is actually getting his 4th as well, with a lot of creep spread up to the center of the map. And there's another medevac drop coming in from the center of the map. Bomber immediately dumps his 6 Marines to the left side of Life's 3rd, and 1 Baneling connection finishes them all off. They all die in an acidy goo. And here's Bomber's another drop attempt, but the Zerglings pick up on that. And instead he's going to pick up and try and drop off as the 4th, but he's going to get surrounded by all these Zerglings. Zerglings are munching down on all these Marines. Half the Marine force is immediately eaten by the Zerglings, and that's another drop that was not successful. And this is another pattern that's going on. Bomber has been continuously dropping in basically all the games and has not been very successful. Like I said before, the only game he won was the game where Life tried to 10-pool him and where he was behind the entire game. So the other games, whether there's been a large macro game, Bomber's drops have not been successful. And if you take a look now, there is a 15 supply advantage for Life. Bomber's going to be building a sensor tower as third, but that's not going to help as the Zerglings are heading over to the other side of Bomber's defenses and going to be dropping down some Banelings. They're both getting 2-2 upgrades, so there's no advantage there. And also Bomber's getting +1 weapons for vehicles, which is interesting as he only has tanks. He's not going mech. But that's not a bad choice if you have a lot of tanks. Also, Life has some Mutalisks building and even more Banelings being constructed now. So have to be very careful. Life is coming in with a lot of different units. And if Bomber does not identify this entire natural line of supply depots might go down. And without that, Zerglings can constantly filter into the main, the natural. Both players are almost at max capacity. And the army supply, though, is in Bomber's favor. Bomber with the scan can see the units going into his natural. All the Zerglings are picking up. They're going to be able to destroy a whole bunch of supply depots. Siege tanks in the back. The Banelings are able to make connections on the supply depot. They're able to break the wall, and now the Zerglings are in. They're doing a lot of damage, but it doesn't seem like it's enough damage as most of the Marines are able to spread. The Mutalisks go into the main, but there's only a small flock of, or a gaggle, a pack, whatever you want to call it, of Mutalisks. They're going to harass some SCVs and try to do some damage. But 7 Mutalisks versus a whole bunch of Stim Marines is not going to do very well, so the Mutalisks are going to have to get out of there. The supplies are exactly the same, so it doesn't seem like there's been much of a difference. Life is trying to go for the third of Bomber. That's not successful. While there's another attack by Bomber into the main. That attack has been thwarted, so he's going to elect to dump off at the fourth. The fourth's actually already been picked off by Bomber. And Bomber's going to pick off this Spine Crawler and a whole bunch of Zergling reinforcements. I don't know what these drones are doing. They're going to be long-distance mining still. And from the fourth, he's going to drop off into the first. But these Mutalisks are here, and the Mutalisks are firing down on these Marines, but the Marines are getting the better shot. But now there's a lot more Zerglings and Mutalisks. This entire group of Medivacs and Marines are going to get destroyed by Life. Supplies are even, but Bomber has a huge counterattack going to the third base of Life. And remember, Bomber was able to take down the fourth. So right now, it is 3 bases to 3, cleaning up some creep. Life is on the retreat. He has to be very careful here. Another thing is Bomber is finishing up all this creep, is destroying the creep. He's also got 3-3 coming, and unfortunately, Life is still on Lair Tech, so Life cannot even get his own 3-3 upgrade. So in about 40 seconds or so, Bomber's going to have a huge advantage. He's going to have 3-2 over 2-2, and these Banelings are all getting destroyed, all but very good hits by the last few Banelings, able to clean up like about 15 Marines, but still, both players are maxed. The Marines are trying to fight off with the Mutalisks. The Mutalisks are running away. This offensive is still going strong. Bomber is still producing a lot of Marines back at home. He has reactors on like every single barracks. And the tanks are slowly moving ahead with small packs of Marines and Medivacs. And he's just constantly leapfrogging with the range advantage of the siege tanks. And it's forcing Life into some unhealthy confrontations here. Zerglings are going to get the surround on this left flank, but on the right flank he's able to destroy much as well. So Life actually has a supply lead now, was able to clean up all those tanks and all those Marines, but his fourth is under attack. Fourth is almost done. There's no medevac here, so these Marines are stimmed to death, and now these Marines are going to get chewed up by the Broodlings, but once again, Life's fourth has been destroyed, and he's going to have to rebuild that once again. So it's still 3 bases to 3. If Bomber can keep putting on the pressure and keep destroying a hatchery, 3 bases to 3 is a very good deal for Terrans versus Zerg. And he's getting up his fourth. There is a Zergling hanging out at where the fourth would probably go. But Life is going to go for a counterattack. Going to see the fourth, pick off this SUV, and try to focus down on the command center, but actually going to go after Marines. So the Marines are back at home. Marines are stimming, chasing away all these Zerglings and Mutalisks. Tank is sieging up, going to get a couple shots away. These Mutalisks are going to get chewed up by all these Marines, Finally, Life decides that's not a very good trade, but a whole bunch of the Mutilays are in red. Have to be very careful here, otherwise the Mutilays might get picked off. And while all that was happening, the third of Life was picked off by another counterattack by Bomber. So Life counterattacked, was not able to do very much. Bomber attacked at the same time, was able to pick off the third. So once again, this is now 3 base to 3. Life's fourth is finally coming up into play again. And a huge engagement in the middle of the map. A tank was picked off by the Mutalisk, but nothing else. Bomber has a small supply advantage. And he does have his fourth up and running now. So, in reality, Bomber does have a slight economic advantage. Especially at 4 bases of 3, Terran, you could say, has a huge advantage. And a whole bunch of Marines are still running around the center of the map. So, Life is trying to collect himself, trying to figure out what he can do. He's lost 5,000 more resources than his opponent. And it's going to be very difficult for him to do much. As, look, he's building his fourth close to Bomber's base. I'm not sure why Bomber moved away. Now he's going to move in a small pack of Marines. Finish off this hatchery. The Zerglings and Mulis are going to come in. There's a Thor joining the battle, doing a lot of splash damage. The Banelings come in, get decent connections, but there's still way too many Marines left, and Life GG's. So Bomber was able to counterattack after Life's attack and was able to capitalize, continuously picking off the fourth hatchery and eventually picked off the third hatchery. By that point, it was very difficult for Life to get back into the game. So Bomber takes game 5. So we're going to go to game 6 with Life leading 3-2.